Welcome to the deep dive. This is a case that just absolutely gripped everyone. It was all over the news.
It really was. Hard to escape it.
And even now, years later, I think a lot of us are still trying to piece it all together, understand everything that happened.
We're talking, of course, about the Idaho murders, the tragic deaths of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin back on November 13th, 2022.
4 University of Idaho students.
Yeah.
And the man, Bryan Kohberger, 28 years old at the time, he eventually pleaded guilty.
That's right. July 2nd, 2025. Pleaded guilty, got life in prison, avoided the death penalty.
But, even with that guilty plea, which, okay, it brought some kind of end to the legal process.
Right.
There's still so many questions hanging out there, like why? What was the real motive? Why them?
And what might have come out if it actually went to trial, all the evidence laid bare?
Exactly. So that's our mission today. We're going to do a deep dive into that whole complex timeline, look at the evidence they would have presented, and talk about some of the newer information that's come out since the sentencing.
Yeah, trying to help you get a clear picture of what really happened and maybe understand why those questions just don't seem to go away.
Okay, so let's go back. Think about that weekend. Saturday, November 12th, 2022. Moscow, Idaho. Just a pretty normal college town weekend, right?
Yeah, students getting ready for Thanksgiving break, probably letting off some steam.
And the house on King Road.
Yeah.
That was kind of the center of this. Maddie, Xana, Dylan Mortensen, Bethany Funke all lived there.
And Kay, she'd moved out but was back visiting, staying the night.
Right. So that evening, it sounds like pretty typical college stuff. Xana and Ethan were at his frat party nearby.
Just a walk away.
Maddie and Kay, they went out, corner club, sports bar, around 10 p.m., then hit up a food truck. Got home just before 2 a.m.
Okay.
Bethany and Dylan were out too, with friends. They got back earlier, around 1 a.m.
And Ethan came back with Xana around the same time Maddie and Kai did.
So by about 2 a.m., give or take, everyone who was going to be there that night was back in the house, settling in.
Seems like it. Just a normal end to a Saturday night out.
Until it wasn't. Because just 2 hours later, around 4 a.m., Dylan Ailey, she's on the second floor. She wakes up.
Here's sounds from upstairs.
Yeah, strange sounds. At first, she thinks maybe it's Kai playing with her dog, Murphy.
Bill tries to rationalize it.
Right. But then she hears something chilling. What she thought was Kai or maybe Maddie saying, "There's someone here."
Wow.
Yeah. Then crying, coming from Xana's room, down the hall from her. And then a man's voice, kind of calm, say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you."
That is deeply unsettling.
Totally. So she's freaked out, understandably. She decides to peek out her door. And this is where we get that crucial eyewitness account. Can you walk us through what Dylan saw?
Well, Dylan's description is, just terrifying. She opens her door, looks out, and sees this figure, a man, all in black, wearing a ski mask.
Walking past her room,
heading towards the back of the house, towards a sliding glass door there. And he actually turns and makes eye contact with her.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, just for a moment, then keeps walking. She later described him, white guy, big nose, bushy eyebrows, and he was holding something she called a small vacuum type of object.
A vacuum object? That's odd.
It is odd, but the big question that came up immediately, especially online, was why didn't she call 911 then and there?
Right. That was the immediate reaction from a lot of people. And I think this is where we really need to understand the context. These are 21-year-old college kids.
Exactly.
In a house where people probably come and go, friends of friends, maybe strangers at parties sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like a lockdown fortress.
So their first thought maybe wasn't immediate danger. Maybe it was a prank. Or maybe Dylan had been drinking. Maybe she wasn't sure what she saw.
And masks weren't exactly unusual in 2022 either.
Good point.
Yeah.
Plus, you have the psychological trauma response, shock dissociation.
Yeah.
Your brain just doesn't process something that horrific correctly in the moment.
So instead of 9/11, they went back to their rooms.
Dylan went back into her room, locked the door. Bethany was also downstairs. They ended up locking themselves in Bethany's room.
And their communication, too. Texting, Snapchat.
Yeah, that's how they tried to reach the others later. It's just how that generation communicates, even apparently in a crisis.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the next morning that things really started to feel wrong.
Okay, so what happened then?
Around 11 a.m., Bethany wakes up. House is quiet. Too quiet. No one else is up.
Which is unusual for a Sunday morning, maybe?
Could be. So they start trying to text, Snapchat the others, no replies. Then they notice Xana's phone location is off. That seemed to be the trigger.
Okay.
They go up to Xana's door, see her, basically passed out on the floor, just in her underwear and a sweatshirt.
Oh, wow. That must have been terrifying.
Yeah, totally freaked out. They leave the house then and call friends, Emily Allen and Hunter Johnson,
Yeah.
for help.
So they called friends before 911.
Yeah. Hunter gets there, goes inside first, goes upstairs, sees Xana too, comes rushing back out, tells him something's going on, call 911.
Finally.
Right. The call goes in just after 11:55 a.m. They report a roommate is, quote, passed out, maybe struggling to breathe.
Understating it clearly. But the police arrive and the scene is just unimaginable.
Tell us what they found.
It's brutal. Xana Kernodle dead on her bedroom floor, multiple stab wounds. Her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, also there, also fatally stabbed.
Horrible.
Then upstairs, the third floor, in Maddie's room, they find Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen, both in the bed, both stabbed to death.
Just devastating.
The violence was extreme. Kai reportedly had over 34 stab wounds, her face badly injured, suggesting a particularly brutal attack. The autopsy confirmed they all died from wounds inflicted by a large knife.
And they think most of them were asleep.
Investigators believe Maddie, Kay, and Ethan likely were, which might explain why neighbors didn't hear screams, though some footage caught sounds like moaning or grunting.
But Xana fought back.
Yes, she had defensive wounds. And remember, she'd just gotten a DoorDash delivery around 4 a.m., so she was likely awake when attacked.
And no forced entry.
No sign of it. Looked like the sliding glass door was just unlocked, which immediately made investigators think this wasn't random. It felt targeted.
Okay, so police have this horrific scene, multiple victims. The case, unsurprisingly, just explodes.
Goes completely viral. National, international news.
But for weeks, silence from the police. Very few updates. And that vacuum, gets filled with speculation.
Oh, absolutely. Rampant theories online. People were blaming everyone.
The surviving roommates, Dylan and Bethany, got so much heat.
Unfairly, given what we now know about trauma. But yeah, also Maddie's boyfriend, Jake, Kaylee's ex, Jack. Even a professor got dragged into it.
Rebecca Schofield, yeah. It was chaos. Kaylee's sister actually did her own digging, helped find key footage from that food truck, the grub truck.
Which points to how desperate people were for answers. But law enforcement often has to be tight-lipped early on, right? To protect the investigation.
Yeah, you can't compromise things. But eventually, they did start getting leads. Surveillance footage became key.
Totally. That's where the white Hyundai Elantra comes in. Footage showed a car like that circling the King Road house multiple times.
Between 3:30 and 4:20 a.m. that morning.
Right in that critical window. It stops near the house at 4:04 a.m., then is seen speeding away around 4:17 a.m.
Away from a dead-end street, which is also key.
Exactly. So police put out a below B-lunk in the lookout for that specific car model.
Washington State University police just, 20 minutes away?
About a 19-minute drive. Yeah, they find one. A 2015 white Elantra. Registered to an apartment there, belonging to Bryan Kohberger.
And he changed his plates.
Changed his license plate just 5 days after the murders. Very suspicious.
Okay, so the car is a link, but the phone data, that seems even more damning.
Oh, the phone data is chilling. His phone goes off radio silence near the WSU campus at 2:47 a.m.
Before the likely time of the murders.
Correct. Then it pops back on at 4:48 a.m. And the location, Moscow, Idaho, near the crime scene. It confirms he traveled while the phone was off.
But the really shocking part, for me at least, is that he apparently went back.
Yes. His phone pings towers covering the King Road house area again later that morning, between 9:1 and 9:21 a.m.
Before the bodies were even found.
Exactly. Police believe he returned to the scene, maybe to see if anything was happening, to check on the situation.
It just speaks volumes about the mindset. It's creepy. And there was that weird selfie, too.
Yeah, apparently he took a selfie, thumbs up, in his bathroom around that time frame as well.
Bizarre. So this wasn't just a one-off trip. The phone data showed more, right? Like he'd been there before.
A lot more. His phone pinged in the area around the King Road house at least 23 times in the months leading up to the murders.
23 times.
Yeah, usually late at night, often between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. It strongly suggests he was casing the place, watching.
Which points towards obsession, planning.
Absolutely. This wasn't impulsive. And there's no known direct link, right? No obvious connection between him and any of the victims.
So the theories are, what? Online stalking.
That's a strong possibility. We know he liked some of Maddie's and Kay's Instagram photos, even downloaded some of Maddie's pictures.
And Kay had told people she felt like she was being stalked.
Right. Plus, the house itself, known for parties, maybe unlocked doors. He might have even been inside before, learned the layout. That sliding door being unlocked is potentially significant.
Okay, so the car, the phone data, It's building a picture.
Yeah.
But the absolute clincher, the smoking gun, was found at the scene itself.
The knife sheath. Tan leather KBAR knife sheath. Found on the bed right there next to Maddie and Kay.
And it had DNA on it.
Yes. Crucially, DNA was recovered from the snap button. It didn't hit any existing databases, though.
So how did they connect it to Kohberger?
This is where investigative genetic genealogy, IgG, comes in. Really powerful tool. They used public genealogy databases to build a family tree connected to that DNA.
Pointing towards the Kohberger family.
Exactly. So then, the final step. They needed his direct DNA. He was at his parents' house in Pennsylvania for winter break.
So they surveilled the house.
Yep. Collected trash bags left outside. Found discarded items, like a Q-tip, tested the DNA. And it was a direct match. A familial match to his father from the trash, matching the sheath DNA.
Bingo.
That was it. They had him. Arrested him on December 30th, 2022.
Wow. And there was digital evidence too, right? On his computer.
Yeah, adding to it. Found records showing he'd bought a KBAR knife and a sheath months earlier.
The same type.
Seems so. And even more telling, he searched online for a new knife and cover right after the murders happened.
Like he was trying to replace the one he'd used and presumably gotten rid of.
Precisely. It all paints a very deliberate picture.
So who is Bryan Kohberger? We know the academic side, bachelor's in psychology, working on a PhD in criminology at WSU.
Right, studying the very thing he'd eventually plead guilty to. He also seemed drawn to authority, worked as security, even interviewed for a police internship in Pullman.
But his past. There were signs of trouble long before this, weren't there?
Definitely. Looking back at things he wrote online years ago as a teenager, he talked about struggling with suicidal thoughts, feeling detached, dissociated, having no emotions.
Boy.
Yeah, even expressed fear about being a psychopath, plus issues with depression and a history of heroin abuse. It's a deeply troubled history.
And that research project he did, that seemed disturbingly relevant.
Incredibly so. At DeSales University for his master's, he ran this online survey, asking convicted criminals to detail their thoughts, their feelings, their actions from start to finish during the crime.
It's like he was studying how to do it.
It certainly looks that way in hindsight, and his interest in forensics, DNA, right before the murders, and that Tinder chat.
Oh yeah, the Tinder conversation, that was chilling.
Asking a woman about the worst way to die, she says being scabbed, and he replies, KBAR. Specifically naming that type of knife. It's hard to ignore.
So all this, the history, the research, the comments, does it fit any kind of known profile?
Well, there's been a lot of discussion connecting Kohberger's behavior to incel culture. Involuntary celibates.
Right, that group known for blaming women, misogyny.
Exactly. People who knew him, classmates, described him as misogynistic sometimes, antagonistic, especially towards women. And there's a potential link drawn to Elliot Rodger.
The guy who committed that massacre in Isla Vista, targeted women.
That's the one. Rodger left behind a manifesto, My Twisted World. Kohberger actually took a class where they studied spree killers like Rodger. Rodger's own video was apparently part of the syllabus.
So maybe modeling himself after someone like that. A fascination.
It's a strong theory, this idea of resentment, fascination with violence against those he felt rejected by.
And that whole Papa Roger thing online.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Right. This anonymous user, Papa Roger, popped up in a Facebook group discussing the case, and they started posting details, like about the knife sheath, before that information was public.
Seriously?
Yeah. And arguing constantly with people, it led to heavy speculation that maybe it was Kohberger himself, lurking online, maybe trying to manipulate the narrative.
Wow. And then after the plea deal, even more disturbing details came out.
Yeah, things that would have likely been trial evidence. A friend noticed scratches on his face right after the murders.
Defensive wounds? Maybe?
Could be. But apparently he'd had similar scratches about a month before, too, which raises some really dark questions about, practice. And reports of him meticulously cleaning his apartment, obvious attempts to destroy evidence, plus those internet searches.
What kind of searches?
Things like sociopathic traits in college student and can psychopaths behave pro-socially, just deeply unsettling. And he had dozens of photos of female WSU students on his devices, some of whom knew the victims.
It paints such a dark picture of obsession and planning.
Yeah.
So with all this evidence mounting, the trial is scheduled for August 2025. But then he switches gears.
Abruptly. July 2nd, 2025, just weeks before trial, he pleads guilty. All counts. First-degree murder, burglary.
In exchange for taking the death penalty off the table.
Exactly. Idaho takes the death penalty very seriously, so that was the trade-off.
And the families? How do they react?
It was mixed, as you'd expect. Some felt relief, avoiding a long, graphic, painful trial, getting some form of closure.
But others felt it wasn't really justice.
Right. Because a plea deal meant he didn't have to stand trial, didn't have to face all the evidence publicly in that setting. And crucially, he didn't have to offer any explanation. No motive stated in court.
He just declined to speak.
Yep. The judge asked if he wanted to make a statement. He just said, "I respectfully decline."
Which leaves that huge question still hanging there. Why?
The ultimate question, and maybe one we'll never have a satisfactory answer to. Judge Hippler at the sentencing basically said as much, called the crimes cowardice, said there was no rational reason.
And that trying to find one just gives Kohberger more power.
That was the judge's perspective. Don't give him that control by endlessly dissecting the why. But, naturally, people speculate. The common theory among some close to the victims is that Maddie might have been the primary target.
But why the others? And why leave Dylan and Bethany alive, especially after Dylan saw him?
We just don't know the exact sequence, the exact reasoning in his mind. It's incomprehensible, really.
And the investigation itself, it wasn't without controversy either. Demolishing the house, for instance.
Yeah, the King Road house was torn down in December 2023. The university called it a grim reminder.
But some families wanted it preserved as potential trial evidence.
They did. They felt it was important for a jury, if it went to trial, to see the actual space. But the university moved forward with demolition.
And you mentioned a monkey wrench earlier, something about DNA.
Right. This is a detail that often gets lost. There was other DNA found at the scene that did not match Bryan Kohberger.
What kind of DNA? Where?
On a black glove found outside the house and a blood spot on a handrail inside. Neither matched Kohberger, and they remain unidentified.
So, what does that mean?
Well, the prosecution clearly felt the DNA on the sheath was the undeniable link. But it does leave open questions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Was someone else potentially there? Or is it unrelated contamination? It adds a layer of unresolved detail.
Definitely something that lingers. But amidst all this darkness, the focus really needs to come back to the victims.
Absolutely. They were so much more than just the Idaho Four. They were bright young people with futures.
And Kaylee Goncalves' sister, her victim impact statement at the sentencing was incredibly powerful.
It really was. Standing there, facing Kohberger, refusing to cry, calling him out directly.
Calling him a sociopath, psychopath, murderer.
And saying he was basic, pathetic, not special, just cutting through any mystique he might have tried to cultivate.
And that final line about how if he hadn't attacked them in their sleep.
Pay would have kicked your effing ass. Just raw, defiant strength from the family, refusing to let him diminish who all of them were.
It's important they're remembered for who they were, not just how they died. And their efforts to ensure that, right?
Yes, which is really positive. 2 nonprofits have been established. Ethan's Smile, in honor of Ethan Chapin.
Providing scholarships.
Exactly. And Made with Kindness, for Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana, also focused on educational scholarships and support.
That's wonderful. Turning that grief into something lasting, something good. Ensuring their names mean more than just this tragedy.
It's a way to keep their light shining.
So we've covered a lot today. The investigation, Kohberger's capture, the evidence stacking up against him, the digital trail, the DNA.
The plea deal, the impact on the families, and that persistent question of motive that just hangs in the air.
It really does.
And as you think about this case where, yes, the killer was caught, justice served in one sense, it makes you reflect on the bigger picture. This case is considered solved.
Right.
But think about other cases, even in that same area, like the unsolved murder of Kristen David, another University of Idaho student back in 1981, found dismembered.
I remember hearing about that cluster of cases back then. The Lewis-Clark Valley killings.
Exactly. Often thought to be the work of a serial killer, but never solved. Kristen David and others potentially linked. Their cases faded. Many people have forgotten their names.
That's a sobering thought.
It is. It reminds you that even when a case like the Idaho 4 dominates headlines and finds a resolution, the pursuit of truth, of remembrance for all victims, that's an ongoing thing. Some stories get told, others fade. And maybe the full story, even in this case, is still unfolding in some ways.